Hello once again, YouTubers of the world. This is Arndelf playing MechWarrior Online. Today I'm going to be going over weapon groupings and a little bit of information about them. To get to them, from your home screen, just go ahead and press on the Mech Lab, go to weapon groupings, and voila, here they show up. So what you have here is a listing of all of the weapons you have currently equipped to your mech. And as you can see, I got the 2 medium pulsators and the LRM-5s. And one thing that obviously comes off as curious is why I have my 1 and 2s programmed to the exact same weapons twice. Well, the answer to that is simple. I have chainfire on the second weapon grouping for when I get too hot and I don't want to be running those continually. The same thing over here. While the 3 will launch all of my LRM-5s at once, the 4 will chainfire them. And you cannot set chainfire up from this screen. That actually has to be done in the field. That's one of the important things that you want to notate. Let's see here. But if you want to just quickly set up weapon groupings before you go into the field, this is the easiest way to do it. And then once you're in the field, it's as simple as just pressing the backspace button once you're on the actual weapon grouping, which I will show in a moment. Alrighty here. So we're going to just go ahead and go to the home. Oh, yes, and once you have made a change, you just press save to actually save that change. And since we don't actually want to be putting my LRMs onto the 2 button, well, you see I can make whatever changes I want. You see the blue means that it's actually highlighted to that weapon grouping. So 2 will now fire my LRM-2s, one of my medium pulse lasers, and, well, actually, all of my LRM-5s. But since I've completely scrambled that, and I don't actually want to fire in that crazy way, though that might prove interesting, I want to hit revert. And if I ever want to change things up and actually keep them the way they are, that's what the save button is, as of course, for. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go to the home screen and go into the testing grounds. Caustic Valley, okay. Gonna take a moment to drop us. Okay, here. Alright. Now, as you can see over to the right of the screen, you can actually see the little strange motions that keep going down. That means chainfire is on my number 2. I'll turn chainfire off. Now it's regular. I'll hit the 2 button. It's firing both of them at the exact same time. Then I'll turn it back on. Chainfire is active. And the same thing on my number 3. You can see on the number 4, the chainfire is active. I'll go ahead and lock onto that awesome there in the distance.
Target acquired.
And I'll hit my number 4 button, and you'll see my LRMs firing in sequence, whereas I press the number 3, and they all fire together. Chainfire has its advantages for many numerous reasons. Whereas simple heat distribution, not spiking the heat too much on a hot map like Caustic. It also has an advantage, whereas with my LRM-5s, where I can launch them all together and there is a heat spike. If I chainfire them, my enemy's being hit by a nearly constant stream of LRM-5s, which has a psychological effect. Really, actually, and it messes them up constantly where they can't actually see their gyro unless they have improved gyros. Their screen is shaking. If the LRM-5s are hitting anywhere near the cockpit, they're getting blinded. There's a lot of advantages to chain firing besides just saving on heat. And remember, it is simple as going around like this and hitting the backspace button. Now, for anyone who didn't want to, let's say, actually set it up from the other screen, you can actually, while in-game, set it up very simply with these buttons. This control and these arrow keys. If you'll look on the screen, you'll see every time I press these arrows, it moves around. I'll press control here, unset it, reset it. It is just that simple. And then I'll go over here to the backspace button and turn chainfire onto my number 3, turn it back off. It is honestly just that simple. In your weapon groupings, you can customize them however you want for your different playstyle, depending on what kind of keyboard, or for that matter, gaming mouse that you have. I myself have a lot of programmable buttons that I find extremely handy to be using in MechWarrior. However, I don't use many of them on my keyboard because I replaced that with the joystick. Alright. Then locking onto this over here.
Acquired.
As you can see, constant stream of LRM5s. Has necessarily the same effect as launch them all together, except I can fire them for a lot longer. That saves on the heat and psychologically breaks down my enemy without me ever actually having to face them. Also, one other thing I do want to point out. Okay, here. We're going to go ahead and head over to another, let's see here, enemy, and I want to show you one other little bonus. That if you're examining your bullseye, the little center thing here, you see when I'm firing, it stays the same color, it doesn't change. We're going to go ahead and wander over to another one of the enemy mechs that we have on this map, which actually I believe is right here. Alright, and do remember, the LRMs for Inner Sphere have a minimum range. So down here, at the bottom right of the screen, you're going to see that my medium pulses are slightly out of range, that's why they're showing as yellow, but my LRMs are showing as green, which means they're in optimal range. So my medium pulse lasers won't do maximum damage at this range. They're actually just slightly out of range because you see the 253 meters. So I close in slightly, and they turn green. However, when I get too close, you're going to see my LRM5s suddenly just gray out. Boom. They just darkened out. Which means at this range, they will no longer have any effect. They just bounce off. Clan mechs will have minimal damage with LRMs at this close of a range. But mostly, when I have LRMs on a clan mech and someone's too close, and I fire at them in the face with LRMs, I do it to shake them up, because the missiles explode, but for some reason don't do full damage. I will back off slightly. Exactly to 180 meters. Oh, it looks like the minimum range isn't the 180, so we'll keep backing up until they activate. Okay, 184 looks like it's good enough. Okay, so we'll just... Now, you'll notice that every time my missiles impact, my cursor turns red. Well, when they actually hit the target. See how it flashes red? This is extremely important to notate when you can't clearly see your target and you're not sure if your weapons are hitting, especially LRMs. If you have an ally that's actually allowing you to get the target lock through them, but your LRMs are for, let's say I was trying to fire over this mountain, my LRMs were impacting before reaching their target, but I don't know that, I'm actually wasting my LRMs trying to hit that target if my cursor isn't flashing red like that. That's something you want to pay attention to when you're trying to fire on someone. It's a dead giveaway that you've actually hit them. Also, every time I fire, you'll see that momentary 3 lines appear above the Centurion's shoulder there. That means that whether you see that on an ally or an enemy, they're being fired on by LRMs. Whether they're hitting or not, and whether it's by you or another ally, enemy, etc., it's all up for debate. Though you can't actually fire LRMs on enemies and lock onto them and that symbol appear. Let's just be grateful for that. But firing all LRMs at once, if you just want to do a crap ton of damage really fast, boom. Has necessarily the same effect. However, one thing that I've noticed, at least with the LRM5s, is their groupings. Because I don't have Artemis activated, the LRM5 groupings stay pretty much the same. And the advantages are also necessarily pretty much the same. The only difference is I lock on a little bit less fast, as well Without the Artemis, the missiles don't go as fast. However, if I had an LRM-20, it helps with the weapon groupings and the missiles bunch together more. So that's another one of the advantages I like with the LRM-5s. It's also another reason why I save up my MC for the Loup de Guerre. No, I'm mispronouncing that, but whatever. Because it is the one trebuchet that has 4 LRM points, so it allows me to equip 4 LRM-5s, thus allowing me to do that reign of terror that demoralizes enemies so thoroughly. Alright, well, this was just a quick video showing you a little bit about weapon groupings. If you have any questions, comments, or want me to do a particular video on anything in the future, feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And in any case, don't get into too much trouble, or do. It's always up to you.